Good day, everyone. Today we will discuss performance management and appraisal and managing performance, discipline, and discharge. Let us first talk about performance management. Performance management is an ongoing process of communication between a supervisor and an employee that occurs throughout the year in support of accomplishing the strategic objectives of the organization. The communication process includes clarifying expectations, setting objectives, identifying goals, providing feedback, and reviewing results. Performance management provides consistency and brings structure to your HR team. If the process is determined in a clear and concise way, then employees, managers, and HR professionals within your organization will be aware of what to do and when to do it. This way, tracking your employees' growth or need for support if performance is lacking is simplified and identified much faster. Okay, let's talk about the importance, the purpose of performance management. Research shows that organizations who put their focus on continuous performance management have better business results. There is merit to this argument. Organizations who dedicate time regularly to performance reviews and assessments are more likely to see an increase in employment motivation as they are encouraged to think about their goals more frequently. After all, employees' goals change more than only once per year. The purpose of performance management, which is ultimately communication, is to improve your performance. Performance improves when individuals do good work that aligns to the business objectives. Individuals do good work when they know what is expected and receive helpful feedbacks and critical resources.
Let us now talk about performance appraisal.
Performance appraisal, forming part of an organization's overall performance management system. The performance appraisal can be defined as the process of identifying, evaluating, and developing the work performance of employees to help achieve the goals and objectives of the organization. At the same time, appraisals benefit employees by providing them with recognition, feedback, career guidance, and development. Performance appraisal involves managers and their staff members meeting on a one-on-one basis at regular intervals, at least annually, to discuss work performance in relation to execution of roles and responsibilities, the requirements of the organization and individuals' contribution to the achievement of the organization's objectives. Effective performance appraisal relies on clear performance standards being established and discussed with employees. Using these standards, appraisal involves: first will be the observing the employees' work behaviors and results and comparing them against the agreed standards. Second will be evaluating job performance and the employees' development potential. Third, providing feedback to the employee. Fourth, acting on the results of the appraisal process, for example, through promotion, rewards, and recognition, counseling, training, or in some cases, termination. Note, where an employee's performance is unsatisfactory, it is best to act swiftly to address these performance issues as they arise instead of leaving them to be addressed in the formal appraisal process, which may take place months after the underperformance is first noticed. This will provide the employee with an opportunity to respond and to improve their performance before a formal performance appraisal process is conducted.
Managing performance.
Managing performance. The Commission recognizes the right of the employer to manage its workforce, including relying on discipline when necessary. A progressive performance management approach that takes into account accommodation needs and is consistently applied and documented is a best practice. Evaluating and management performance. It is an organization's best interest to follow good human resources practices, such as regular performance appraisals and documented progressive performance management of all employees. For example, an employer rarely does performance evaluations and is somewhat lax about performance management, usually relying only on undocumented verbal warnings. A racialized employee raises concerns about discrimination, and shortly afterwards his supervisor begins a progress of performance evaluation. He is asked to meet with his supervisor every month to discuss his performance. Although objectively the employee's performance is no worse than it has always been, and no different than that of his colleagues. His personal file suddenly becomes filled with reports of issues with his performance. Ultimately, he receives a letter of termination based on his negative performance evaluations over the previous 6 months. The employee alleges reprisal. Despite the existence of this paper trail, the employer's action will be closely scrutinized in the event of a human rights complaint. Some performance evaluation systems may have an adverse impact on persons' identification by the code. One example is if an employee is asked to rate him or herself and then discuss this with the manager. This may affect some racialized persons, newcomers, older persons, women of persons with disabilities who may have had past experiences of discrimination or cultural differences that make it more difficult for them to sell themselves.
So now we have discipline. Discipline is an approach used by management to modify undesirable performance and behavior through the use of a corrective action process. At the onset of any employee performance or conduct issues, supervisors are strongly encouraged to contact Filipino employee relations staff for assistance. So now we have the 5 steps of coaching and progressive discipline. First is the coaching note. A coaching note should include the details of the behavior and cite specific examples. Address behaviors that have been observed and not general personality traits. Be clear that if the behavior continues, additional progressive discipline, such as a written warning, could result. Incorporate examples of improvement where appropriate. Include an action plan that addresses what is expected of the employee moving forward. Second is written warning and final written warning. Written warnings are always a formal process. They are always documented and the document is presented to the employee. Like the coaching note, the warning should include the details of the violation, behavior observed, and an action plan to correct the behavior. The warning should be future focused and include a statement that their job is in jeopardy. It should be noted if the written warning is a final written warning. Depending on the severity of the misconduct, the first written warning can also be the final written warning. The document should be prepared ahead of time and it should detail the consequences of not correcting the behavior. There should be a witness and the document should be signed by all parties present. Third is decision day or suspension. Decision day can be used to give the employee one last chance to prove that they want to be a member of the organization. This is an optional step and not used in all situations. However, under the right circumstances, it can be very impactful. This tactic is typically used with an employee who can do the job well but has some performance issue. that is keeping them from being successful, such as attendance-based issues. So the fourth is separation. Separation is the goal of progressive discipline is to assist the employee to understand that a performance problem exists and give them an opportunity to improve. However, sometimes that doesn't happen and there must be a willingness to move forward with a separation. If the decision is to separate, include a final incident that resulted in the decision to terminate employment, this is usually the determining factor in the Department of Labor's decision regarding the employee's eligibility for unemployment. It is recommended to have a witness during separation. The separation procedure should take no more than 5 minutes. Strive to remain factual, objective, and allow the employee to leave the company with their dignity intact.
Discharge. Discharge decisions are also extremely difficult. After discharge, an employee is normally left with no source of income because of the emotion involved in a discharge decision. Supervisors tend to let down their guard during the termination meeting. The current job market has prompted many disgruntled former employees to sue their former employers more often than in the past. For this reason, any mistakes in the discharge process subjects the employer to potential exposure for wrongful termination. Therefore, employers must be extremely cautious when making and implementing discharge decisions. Discharge decisions are generally made for three main reasons: illegal or unethical conduct, performance issues or unacceptable conduct, reduction in force, or job elimination. Some common recommendations apply, however, for all three types of discharge. Always require that at least 2 management employees are present when informing an employee of the decision to discharge. Avoid arguing with the employee and avoid unnecessary discussion. An employee may need to vent some anger. Let him vent, do not get defensive. Tell the employee that a final decision has been made. Be warned that the employee may be tape recording the meeting or subsequent. Upon conversations, when an employer discharges an employee based on job elimination or reduction in force, whether the employee elects to take an early retirement package or not, the employer should set specific factors for selection. The factors need to be disclosed to the employee. The factors also need to be applied uniformly and consistently. Prior to making any decision, however, the employer should review what impact the decision will have on the employees over 40. If an employer pays severance to a discharged employee, the employer should insist on a release of all claims from the employee. If the employee is over 40, the release needs to contain specific language and must meet additional requirements in order for it to be legally enforceable.